Hello. Wanted to talk with you a little bit about return on investment and residual income. So let me go ahead and pull up the screen here. Okay. So, going to talk about return on investment first, also known as ROI. Now, return on investment is a way to judge financial performance of either a company on the whole, or a lot of times it's used for parts of a company, segments or regions or individual stores. Um, ROI is a great indicator of performance. It is widely used. It's a very good indicator because it's simple to use, and also it allows a company to evaluate different parts of their company of different sizes, taking away any advantage to the larger parts of this to the larger size parts of the company. So a basic formula for ROI would be investment center net income divided by investment center average assets. Now, another way to think about it is the net income of that part of your company that's generated divided by basically the investment in assets for that part of your company. Now, it is an average. So if you have a change in assets over the year, you would basically take the beginning plus the end, add them together and divide by two. So whatever assets they had at the beginning of the year, plus whatever assets they have at the end of the year, add them together, divide by two. So let's look at an example. Investment center net income, let's say it's 300,000. The investment center invested average assets were 3 million. So our ROI would be the 300,000 divided by the 3 million would be 10%. Now, every company sets ROI at whatever rate, or sets whatever they feel is an acceptable level of ROI. For some companies, 10% would be great. Another company might want 15% or 20%. So every company kind of sets their own ROI or level of ROI that they feel is acceptable. Um, this is used a lot at, again, judging performance. So if you said we want at least an 8% ROI from all of our units, then the unit that had a 10% ROI would be doing well. They would be over your expectations or meeting your expectations as far as ROI. Now, another way to look at ROI is basically looking at ROI is equal to profit margin times investment turnover. This is kind of another way to look at ROI. So in this case, you would be taking the profit margin, which is the investment center income divided by investment center sales. So profit margin is basically income divided by sales. And what profit margin tells you is what kind of profit are you generating off the sales of that unit or that part of your company. So what kind of profit are you generating off the sales of that part of your company? That's profit margin. And then the other one would be investment turnover. The other part would be investment turnover. Investment center sales divided by investment center average assets. So investment turnover looks at how well are you using your assets to generate sales? How well are you using your assets to generate sales? So another way to look at ROI is profit margin times investment turnover. So let's look at that. Let's say that we had investment center income of 500,000, investment center sales of 2 million, and investment center average invested assets of 4 million. So our profit margin, we would take the investment center income and divide it by investment center sales, and we would get 25%. So we're generating a 25% profit margin on everything that we sell. Now, our investment turnover, then we'd do that. And this would be taking the investment center sales, which are what, 2 million, and divide it by the investment center average assets, which are 4 million, and we would get 0.50. So basically what the investment turnover here says is that for every dollar that we invest in assets, we generate about 50 cents in sales. For every dollar that we invest in assets, we generate about 50 cents in sales. So if we were to do the total ROI, it would be the profit margin times the investment turnover. And that would give us, in this case, an ROI of about 12.5%. So again, If the company felt like that was a good ROI or a good number for ROI, then this would be an acceptable number. So if they said we want anything over 10% for ROI, then this would be acceptable. Um, if they wanted 15% or higher, then this would not be acceptable. Now, one of the advantages of doing ROI this way, where you look at profit margin times investment turnover, is that you can kind of see where your strengths of ROI are or your weaknesses of ROI. If ROI is a little low, a lot of times this will help you find out why or where it's low. So in this case here, if I were evaluating this, I would say a 25% profit margin is pretty good. I don't think the issue here is the profit margin, but the investment turnover only generating about 50 cents in sales for every dollar in invested assets, that could be a little low. And so here I would say based on these numbers that the problem is more with investment turnover than with profit margin. And so by doing it this way, by breaking it out between profit margin and investment turnover, it does help give you a little bit more information as to what makes up the ROI and maybe gives you some insight as to where you could look to improve your ROI. Now, ROI is very well used. It's easy to understand. It also basically, again, like I said earlier, you can evaluate different parts of your company that are of different size and get an even evaluation of them. It doesn't give any real preference to size when you're looking at different parts of your company. So it's good. The one thing, I think the one downside to ROI that you'll see has to do a little bit with agency theory. And that is that sometimes if a part of your company is sitting on a very solid ROI number, they will reject investments that don't either maintain or increase their current level of ROI. So let's say your company says that anything over 10% is good. But what if you're right now sitting on 18% ROI? Then you're going to get a great bonus based on that. A lot of times bonuses are based on ROI or meeting ROI numbers. So you're not looking to do anything unless it maintains that 18% ROI or increases it. So you might pass up some very good investments that pay 14, 15% that are good for the company. The company is good with anything over 10, but they don't improve your current level of ROI. So that's a little bit of agency theory in that managers will a lot of times do what's best for them and not necessarily always what's best for the company. So that's where residual income comes in. So residual income is another way to judge performance. And residual income would be basically your investment center income minus your target investment center income. So residual income is a dollar value figure. And if it is positive, if you have positive residual income, that means that you've generated more income than the target figure that you were trying to beat, which is good. And it kind of overcomes some of the agency theory in that whatever is good for the company is also good for the manager. Positive residual income is good for both. Negative residual income would be bad for both. So it does take away some of the emphasis on agency theory and when there could be a conflict of interest between what's good for the manager and what's good for the company. So that's kind of the strength of residual income. Now, let's look at an example of it. Let's say that our investment center income was 500,000. And let's say that our investment center target income, let's say that we decide to make it 10% of sales. So we figure that 10% of sales is going to be our target income. And let's say that our sales were 3 million. So we took 10% of 3 million. We came up with 300,000. So our investment center income minus our target center income, which is 300,000, gives us residual income of 200,000. And if your residual income is positive, that is a good thing. That means that your unit or that part of your company has made more than the target income goal set for them. So that is good. And again, that's something that's good for the company and good for that individual manager. Okay, so residual income, ROI, great ways to evaluate performance. Thank you.